Well, hello everyone, how are you doing this fine day? Hope you're enjoying your week. Welcome to another survival challenge, in particular, a Warframe survival challenge. And even more in particular, a Grineer survival challenge. That's right, guys, we're almost there. We don't have that many more factions in Warframe to do before we've covered all the factions. I mean, what do we even have left at this point? The Orkin, and then we can do like the different factions like the Red Veil or Steel Meridian. But we really don't have that many left. So give yourself a little pat on the back, man. You made it through. This is cool. This is nice. Right? The premise of this video is very simple. I'm going to take the Grineer and I'm going to throw them in their own little solar system somewhere, and then I'm going to take 4 other different factions and one at a time throw them into the same universe and basically see what would happen if these factions came into contact with one another. And that's it. Nothing too complicated. Pretty straightforward. Pretty simple. But I've wasted up your time. Let's get started. So I'll tell you a little bit about the Grineer before we actually get into this. Just to let you know, I'm not going to super hardcore detail with Grineer because this is a very dense universe with a lot of little fucking details. And just no. It would take me like an hour just to begin to touch on all the things that make up the Grineer society and their military, and no. I'm gonna tell you a couple of cool things that they got, and then you can kind of use that and make up your mind on how well you think they'll do against whatever factions. So first up is the actual structure of the Grineer. Their leadership is made up of a group of women known as the Grineer Queens, who are clones of prior existing Orkin and cloned their entire Grineer army. The entirety of the Grineer are fucking clones. The Queens clones, the soldiers are clones. And this cloning process is not very good. As the years go on and they continue to clone the same DNA over and over, that DNA began to break down, and there doesn't seem to be any fixing it in sight. So the Grineer are constantly born with all sorts of weird genetic problems, deformities, and extremely short lifespans. Because of this, every single Grineer in their society, including the Grineer Queens, have to constantly counterbalance this with cybernetics as well as genetic modification, so they don't just fucking collapse the moment they come out of the goddamn cloning tube thing. However, after this genetic modification cybernetics are applied, they're actually really fucking powerful. Someone who felt like doing the math more than I did has theorized that the Grineer armor, like the basic bitch Grineer armor, weighs somewhere around 1,300 pounds, with the heavy Grineer armor weighing anywhere from 2 to 3 times that, so up to a possible 3,900 pounds. It should also be noted that this armor is oftentimes permanent, as it's literally holding their body together, so it's not something that they take off when they go to bed or when they're not fighting. They literally live at all times with this amount of weight constantly pulling on their body. Now, while the Grineer do have a shorter lifespan than normal, we don't actually know how much shorter than a normal person it is. We just know that's a fraction of the lifespan of a normal human, and considering that you don't usually use fraction when you're talking about like half the lifespan, you generally use fraction when you're talking about like, you know, a very small percentage. Like elephants live longer than humans, right? But you wouldn't say that a human has a fraction of the lifespan of an elephant. Elephant's average lifespan is like 80 and a human's average lifespan is like 76. That wouldn't make much sense. You would say like a dog's lifespan is a fraction of a human because he only lives to be like 15-20 years, and humans live to be around, you know, 76. That would make more sense. So again, while we don't know what their lifespan is, we can assume it's extremely fucking short. Because of this short lifespan, there's like a half a dozen things that the Grineer have to do in order to counterbalance this weakness when it comes to warring. Well, I mean, that's really all they do is war. Basically, the entire Grineer faction is just a fucking warlike faction. They don't even really have citizens. The entire faction is just built on constantly cloning people over and over again and sending them to the front lines to get fucking murdered and to also murder the opponent while being enhanced with all of this cybernetic and genetic advancements. Due to this, they don't really have a whole lot of combat training, as the Queens don't really care to train them at all. For one, they don't really have time to have combat training because, again, they die very quickly. But also, it's just sort of expected that they're going to die the moment they go out there, whether they have the training or not. So who gives a shit? Why waste your time with it? However, the handheld weapons of the Grineer are actually stated to be extremely powerful, even compared to the weapons of the other factions, despite being a lot more simple. The Corpus have a bunch of energy-based weapons. The Orkin have void weapons. The Infested actually upgrade their weapons by infesting the weapons, which upgrades their base stats. But the Grineer really just have big fucking guns. The vast majority of their weapons are just combustion-based. That's just like the guns that we have in our real Earth. AK-47, shotguns, things like this. Very simple, but they're just way stronger. It is directly stated multiple times throughout the series that the other factions actually can't even fire Grineer weapons because of the blowback from actually firing it. In fact, these guns fire with so much force that even Warframes have trouble firing them due to the recoil, which if you've seen how strong a Warframe is, that shit's fucking impressive. Some of these dudes are capable of lifting well over a dozen tons. Now, if by some miracle a Grineer soldier actually does survive on the battlefield for long periods of time and actually kills a lot of people, and in some way impresses the Grineer Queen, the Queen does have the ability to make them into a Kuvalich, which is like top tier, most powerful thing in the entire Grineer army. They're stated by the other Grineer to be completely immortal, although I think this is probably a myth. We don't actually have any evidence that they're straight up immortal. It's just something that the basic Grineer soldiers believe in. But given that they only live to be like 20, 30 years max, I wouldn't really be all that surprised if a Kuvalich's lifespan was like 80 or 90 years and they just see them as being immortal because of how much longer they live than the normal Grineer soldier. Regardless of that, the Liches do get a lot more benefits than just maybe possibly immortality. They are considerably more powerful than your average Lich, to the point that they can actually out-strengthen and overpower Warframes, and they are basically used as the main weapon against the Warframe, and one of the few foot soldiers in any of the factions across the board within this series that is capable of fighting against the Warframes on par. It's stated on multiple occasions that they actually can challenge and fight them on par. They also have this added ability that every time they kill a Warframe, they become more powerful, and eventually some of them can get some really fucking broken abilities. Just to give you an example, one ability that Kuvalich has is called Molecular Annihilation, which does exactly what it sounds like. Yeah, they're pretty fucking powerful. It should also be noted that literally every single individual within the Grineer army is genetically modified to be 100% loyal to the Grineer queens. The belief is that they're actually not capable of disagreeing with orders, and their love for the queens and obsession with making the queens happy is just straight up genetically planted in them as they are created. In fact, as far as I'm aware, in the entire Warframe lore, only one Grineer has ever questioned this. So while I wouldn't go as far as to say it's not possible to fight back against it, it's so rare that it really doesn't even matter. So as far as ground troops go, the main thing that our other factions gonna have to deal with when it comes to the Grineer is a massive, constantly cloned army that has basically no end to their numbers, who has insane strength and physical power with extremely powerful combustion-based weapons, and for the most part are literally incapable of questioning any of their orders or going back on them. Basically, if the Grineer Queens tells them to do something, they're all going to unanimously do it and be on the exact same page about it. You don't have a situation like you do with a lot of other factions where people have, you know, free will and shit to be able to not do what this one person says. It's very useful in a war. On top of that, they actually do have a lot of pretty impressive weapons of war. For instance, they have these giant missiles that are several miles long that they fire from the surface of planets onto a surface of another planet that is capable of wiping out an entire country. They have these things called Kuva fortresses, which are always moving around the solar system, never stopping, so they're very hard to find where they are. And they are said to have some of the strongest defenses in the entire universe of Warframe. We don't generally get a good idea of what those defenses look like necessarily in the game, but considering all the crazy shit the Grineer have, you can assume it's a lot. These fortresses are basically treated by everybody in lore as being essentially impenetrable. Whatever, fuck it. They can't get in. They also have these really big spider tank-looking things called thumpers, which create these massive vibrating shockwaves across the ground that can cause literal earthquakes. They're small earthquakes, but they're earthquakes, and you know, that's cool. I can't make an earthquake. Can you fucking make an earthquake? Okay, stop bitching. And as I said before, there's a lot more than this. There's a whole bunch of shit I can go into, but I think this is enough of a little spoonful so you know where I'm coming from. You know what I'm putting down. You get it, right? If you really know the Grineer super well, go down in the comments below and let people know all the stuff that I missed, because like I said, I could be talking for fucking an hour just telling all the shit they have. And I don't want to do that. First up on chopping block, we have the Illuminate from Helldivers. I know, crazy. A Helldivers faction is first on the list? How is that even possible? But no, it is. Because I'm not a fucking Helldivers wanker, you assholes. There's just no way to get around it. The Illuminates aren't going to do very well here. Their tactics just don't really attribute themselves to them being able to fight against the Grineer very effectively. That was a really convoluted way of saying that. In order to say the Illuminates win this, there's a couple of very important details about them that you have to completely ignore, which I won't be doing here. For one, the Illuminates are very close to extinction. This is a very important part of the story. Over 100 years ago in the First Galactic War, they were nearly driven to extinction, which is why in the Second Galactic War, their entire strategy is to go and abduct people from other planets, then turning them into voteless and throwing those voteless at the front lines to fight against their enemies for them, because there just straight up aren't enough Illuminates to fight a war. This is also why literally all of their ships are droned and not manned, because they just straight up can't sacrifice the people. The Illuminates aren't going to lose to the Grineer because the Grineer are physically more powerful or have more destructive weapons or anything like that, even though in a lot of ways that's true. The reason they're going to lose is because their tactic of abducting civilians isn't going to work against the Grineer, because the Grineer don't fucking have civilians. That's really as simple as it is. The entire Grineer faction are all military soldiers. They don't have cities or comfortable homes where they fucking go and shop at Walmart and go to Home Depot and build sheds behind their house. Every single quote-unquote city that they have is is basically just a city-sized military fortress. Their entire strategy of showing up in basic bitch cities with just a bunch of civilians and abducting them only works in Super Earth because those civilian militias are very, very underfunded due to the ongoing war effort. Basically, if you go all the way before the First Galactic War, all of the colonies of Super Earth had their own built-in militia and they were extremely well funded. After the First Galactic War, there was 100 years of peace and Super Earth stopped funding these militias, which, by the way, I understand that a government-funded militia doesn't make any sense. It's not technically a militia, but I'm sure they know that. That's part of the satire. Basically, the idea of Super Earth is that every single man, woman, and child is expected to pick up a gun and defend Super Earth, and there is funding that Super Earth gives to all of these colonies as well as cities to allow for training and weapons of their basic bitch civilian population. However, due to those militias being extremely poorly funded, this has allowed the Illuminates to come in to abduct them without that much resistance. This is not going to be the case if they try to invade the Grineer. And if they can't invade the Grineer, go into cities and just straight up abduct a bunch of people and turn them into voteless, that's like 85% of their fucking army gone. The only things they will have to fight with at that point are drones and the actual overseers, the actual members of the Illuminate, and they just straight up don't have the numbers to properly fight against the Grineer. Now, under normal circumstances, the Illuminates actually have a bit of advantage here because all of their ships, like their entire military, is stealth ships. They actually have camo technology on every single ship in their entire military, other than the small drones that come down and like fight on the ground. But their actual like legit ships all have stealth technology. This is what allows them to come in and abduct whole planets without anyone even realizing it's happening. The problem is that the Grineer actually do have the ability to see stealth ships. The Grineer has technology called sensory regulators, which allow them to see camouflaged things. This not only includes warframes that are capable of turning invisible, but also ships. Now, while it is true that the Tenno's orbiters are also stealth ships and are capable of infiltrating these massive Grineer fortresses without being detected, that's only really because an orbiter is just a single small ship with one dude who's inside of it. While it's not completely impossible for the Grineer to pick up the orbiter when it enters Grineer space, it is very, very unlikely just due to the fact that it's one small ship on an entire planet of them trying to sense shit. It's very easy for something that small to slip through the cracks. However, if the Illuminate want to send an entire fleet to abduct literally billions of people, which is what they do against Super Earth, they're definitely going to get picked up, especially when millions upon billions of people start getting abducted. And once they find out that this is happening, they will be able to blow all their fucking ships out of the sky. Basically, the chink in Super Earth's armor that the Illuminate have been taking advantage of since the beginning of the war, which is that Super Earth has been ignoring the protection of its colonies, is not something they will be able to take advantage of against the Grineer. And if they're not capable of doing that, and it's just a war between the Illuminates and the Grineer, you have the Grineer who have a much, much larger force that can repopulate much, much faster with more powerful guns, more powerful ships, literally more powerful everything. The Illuminates just really can't do anything but kind of go into hiding. They can take their stealth ships and go hide somewhere in space and try to attack here and there, but short of literally creating another black hole and chucking it at them, there isn't a whole lot they can do. And given that the Grineer have really terrible space travel abilities, they would be able to go into deep space, make a giant black hole, just send it over at the Grineer planets, and there's literally nothing the Grineer can do to stop it. The problem with that is they don't have any dark matter. All their dark fluid was stolen from them by Super Earth during the First Galactic War. In the Second Galactic War, they had to wait for Super Earth to create a black hole, and then they had to go around stealing dark fluid from Super Earth so that they can then control the black hole and send it after them. Now that black hole's been dealt with and it's gone, there's really no evidence that the Illuminates have enough dark fluid to make another one. Super Earth still has the vast, vast majority of the dark fluid. Now, in theory, if they were actually capable of making a black hole and just chucking it at the Grineer, yeah, they would win. There's literally nothing the Grineer can do about it. But I think at this point, it's pretty clear that they don't have that ability right now. But it is very likely that at some point in the future, this will come up again, and they will acquire more dark fluid so they can make their own black holes. The only real win condition I see the Illuminate being able to do is possibly if they can blow up the Grineer junctions, which will completely eliminate their ability to travel through space. But the junctions are so heavily fortified that the odds of that happening is also very, very unlikely. The Illuminates just straight up don't have the numbers to accomplish something like that. So yeah, the Grineer win, and the Grineer should win very, very easily. If you're enjoying the video, make sure to like, subscribe, comment, share, and join the membership. Remember, join the membership, you get exclusive access to unique videos that no one else can get. And don't forget to check down below at the pinned comment where you will see a link to the Discord, as well as the second channel. Not just Ace, it's my second channel. It's It's mine. I own it. I made it. And it's got other stuff over there. It's got stuff that aren't survival challenges. Do you like my voice but fucking hate survival challenges? You're like, oh man, I wish I could just hear your voice in my ear without all this stupid survival bullshit. Go over there. That's where you'll get it. I talk about movies and games and whatever the fuck I want to talk about. Go check that shit out. But hey, let's continue on to the video with this other stuff that's totally not that stuff. That'll be fun. Let's do it. Let's go. Next up on the list, we have Hyperion from the Borderlands. Now, this one on the surface actually seems like a much closer war than it actually will be in reality. The strengths that Hyperion have are very closely aligned with the strengths that Grineer have. Their ability to make a damn near limitless number of people, as they literally have the technology to make data into real shit. They don't need materials to make loader bots. They can just make them out of nothingness, and they can continue to make them as much as they want, meaning they have a limitless number of forces to throw at their enemies. And the loader bots themselves are ridiculously powerful. They're capable of taking these things and firing them from space to the ground without damaging them. That's kind of fucking impressive. Normal guns and bullets and explosions and shit are not going to be able to damage a loader bot at all. So Hyperion's main advantages are limitless resources, a nearly limitless army, and very powerful ground forces similar to what Grineer have. But Grineer's still gonna fuck them up. And the reason why is basically tactics and how they go about doing this. The Grineer can make just an infinite number of clones over and over again without anyone being able to hinder them, because their cloning facilities are under lock and key, guarded by massive fucking fortresses with huge weapons of mass destruction. Hyperion's a little bit similar, where they make their armies in these massive space stations, but the difference here is that a Hyperion space station doesn't have anywhere near the defenses as a Grineer cloning facility. While it's true that a single Hyperion space station was able to basically go to war with the entire planet of Pandora by itself, that was mostly only because their main enemy, the Crimson Raiders, did not have weapons that could possibly blow up a fucking space station. Hyperion was fighting an enemy that had very limited resources, which is not the case for the Grineer. Hyperion's tactics during Borderlands 2, where it just parked a space station over the planet of Pandora and just started sending a bunch of soldiers down to the surface, isn't gonna work here, because if they park it anywhere near a Grineer planet, the Grineer are gonna blast them out of the fucking sky, and it's gonna be super fucking easy. Like, unbelievably easy. Essentially, based on what we see in the Borderlands universe, Hyperion will not be able to go to war with any single planet, city, ship that the Grineer have, because Borderlands doesn't really go into detail about massive space battles when it comes to the Hyperion. The only true advantage that Hyperion has over the Grineer is, again, space travel. You're gonna hear this a lot. But once again, they're not really shown to have the weaponry necessary to destroy the junctions, at least not without also getting destroyed themselves. Because again, these junctions are extremely heavily guarded, and there's really no evidence that a Hyperion space station can stop a fucking 2 or 3 mile long missile being fired at it that can blow up a fucking country. And while it is true that Hyperion also has weapons of mass destruction, like they have the Helios base that was going to blow up Pandora's moon, this is shown in this series to be something that is unbelievably unique to Hyperion and the universe's Borderlands as a whole. This was the pride and joy of Handsome Jack and Hyperion, and it took him years to build it, and there was nothing the Crimson Raiders can do to stop him from building it. If Hyperion decides to start making some giant weapon of mass destruction on the moon of one of their planets, they can just blow up the station anytime they want to, something the Crimson Raiders couldn't do. Basically, this is a situation where Hyperion has space superiority, but if they at any time want to take over any planets or moons or anything that the Grineer have, the Grineer are way too good at fortifying those positions and those bases, to the point that Hyperion really can't do a whole lot to take it over. I mean, again, it was taking Handsome Jack fucking years just to try and take control of Pandora, and they really didn't have anything that they could fight back with other than just them on the ground with guns and shit fighting his soldiers. They weren't actually capable of fighting against any of his ships in space, which the Grineer are. It's damn near impossible that Hyperion is even going to be able to send any troops down to any Grineer planet, solely because all of those ships that do will be blasted out of the sky before they have a chance to. So I'm not necessarily saying that Hyperion is going to be completely wiped out, because they're going to have full control over how they invade, when and where. Like, if Hyperion just wants to have their space station away from a planet, just out in space somewhere, not attacking Grineer planet, there's really nothing the Grineer can do about it. They don't have a way of getting to them. Again, their ships don't even go faster than light unless it's using a junction, which only goes from point A to point B. And those junctions are only built by planets and moons. There's no reason for them to make one out in the middle of fucking space. Hyperion has no issues with just traveling at faster than light speeds all around the entire galaxy, so really the only way that they're actually going to be wiped out is if they willingly choose to by trying to go to war with one of the planets and losing. But as of right now in Borderlands, based on what we've seen from Hyperion, they just don't have the ability to fight against the Grineer when they have the home field advantage, which here they will. I guess the best way to say it is the Grineer planets and moons and fortresses are like a giant medieval castle. Hyperion are a bunch of soldiers outside of that castle. They have no chance whatsoever of entering the castle or fighting against the castle. If the Grineer soldiers ever come out of the castle, Hyperion's gonna fuck them up. But the Grineer soldiers have no reason to come out of the castle. Like, the only thing that the Grineer would do is to travel to new planets to try and build new junctions and then turn those new planets into fortresses, which admittedly they're not as good at as Hyperion will be able to get to those planets faster and arguably take them over a lot faster. So basically, okay, let's say this. Let's say if there's 20 planets in a galaxy, right? There's way more. We're just use any random number. And we give 5 planets to the Grineer and 5 planets to the Hyperion. Hyperion will never be able to take over those 5 planets the Grineer have, ever. Not in a million fucking years will they ever be able to take them over. But they're gonna do a much better job at taking over the other 10 planets than the Grineer will. If 10 of those planets haven't been taken over by anyone, the Grineer might take over 2, while Hyperion might take over 8 because they're just faster. So now Grineer's got like 7 planets that Hyperion has no hope of ever taking back. Grineer might be able to take their planets back by firing missiles at them, I suppose, but it sure as shit won't be the most effective method. So I'm gonna say the Grineer here win, because the Grineer are less likely to lose their planets to Hyperion than Hyperion is to lose their planets to the Grineer. Really, in order for the Grineer to just straight up win against Hyperion, they need better space travel. That's really all it is. It is a massive fucking hindrance that you can't fly from Earth to Mars without a junction. Like, that is a crazy fucking limitation. They have to send their ships through space at slower than light speeds to get to the world, then only start building the junction so they can then send warships between the 2 planets. That is a wild fucking disadvantage when you're talking about a fucking galactic war. Next up on the list, we have the Krogan from Mass Effect. Not gonna lie, this is where the Grineer start getting fucked up. Like, really badly, the Grineer start getting fucked up. It's not that the Grineer aren't more powerful than the Krogan. They're physically stronger, their guns are more powerful, they have larger weapons of mass destruction. Okay, let's just get that off the table right now. Their fortresses are even a lot better. Just as a military unit, the Grineer are more impressive. If you take 1,000 Grineer and you put them up against 1,000 Krogan, the Grineer should win. Not every time, albeit maybe like 6 out of the 10 times or 7 out of the 10 times. The Krogan are capable of fighting back, but the Krogans just have particular strengths that the Grineer cannot deal with. They can't possibly even touch. For instance, Krogan biology is fucking wild. In the Mass Effect universe, Krogans are thought to be completely immune to heat, cold, any form of toxin, poison, venom, and radiation. Their resistance to radiation, in fact, is so good that the entire planet has been turned into a radiated wasteland because different clans of Krogans are constantly trying to blow each other up with nukes, and they didn't even really notice. They don't care that their planet is completely unlivable by normal beings. Krogans have organs in their body known as redundant organs because they have far more than they need of every single vital organ inside their body. Even the absolute smallest of Krogan have 2 hearts, 4 lungs, and 4 testicles. But the bigger the Krogan is, the more organs they have. And the size of Krogans vary wildly. The smaller Krogans can be around 330 pounds, whereas the biggest of Krogans can be over 800 pounds. While the smallest of Krogans have 2 hearts, many of the mid-sized Krogans have up to 4 hearts, and we don't even know how many hearts the biggest ones have. And yes, the Krogans can still live as long as one of those hearts remain active. Krogans don't have normal nervous systems. They don't act like ours. Their nervous system is liquid, like blood. You might be asking why this is good. Excellent fucking question. Let me answer it for you. Our nervous systems aren't like that. Our nervous systems are like vines. They're hard. They run throughout our entire body. If you cut one of those vines, we're fucked. Our nerves go from our brain to every other part of our body, and it allows us to move and feel things and all that kind of good stuff. If you disconnect that, we get fucking paralyzed. We can't move anymore. That's not the way a Krogan's works. Their nervous system works the same way as our blood circulation works. Instead of it being a vine, it's more like a stream. If you cut the stream and slice a sword through it, it's still gonna keep flowing. It's like water. And if a Krogan loses a bunch of that nervous system fluid, it can be regrown and replaced the same way our blood can. This means that Krogans are completely 100% immune to any form of paralysis because you can't turn off, disconnect, or in any way harm their nervous system. The only way to do it is to remove so much of that nervous system fluid that you've basically removed all the blood in their body, and now they bled out and they're dead. You just have to kill them. basically. Because of all these different factors, the Krogans are known as some of the most difficult beings to kill in the entire Mass Effect universe. They even have something that their race calls a blood rage, which is the ability to activate their own adrenaline system, which completely turns off their pain receptors, making them faster, stronger, and overall far more dangerous on a battlefield. It does have the negative effect of them not being able to think straight. Like, it literally is like a rage, a blood rage. They can no longer use logic and basically just gun-ho themselves to their death on a battlefield. But it should be noted that this is something that a mature Krogan can just turn on and off at will. But none of that is even the most dangerous stuff about the Krogan. The most dangerous stuff about the Krogan are the birth rates, because I'm going to use a version of the Krogan that is not affected by the genophage. In case you haven't played Mass Effect, the genophage is a plague that is given to the Krogan because their birth rates are way too fast. They were taking over the galaxy. So this was created to severely hinder those birth rates. And when I mean severely, I mean like fucking severely. Just to give you an idea, the average Krogan female in a single birth, which takes about a year, can lay 1,000 eggs. What the genophage does is make it so that there is one viable egg in every 1,000 births. So that's 1,000 births with 1,000 eggs each. Only one egg is viable. That is one viable Krogan life for every 1 million Krogan eggs. But by the end of the series, if you played the game right, the genophage is no longer there. It's gone. They cured it. So now the Krogan are just free to populate however much they want. So now, given that, just how fast can the Krogan populate? Well, I already explained the whole 1,000 eggs per female every year. Okay. The part that I didn't say that's also very, very important is that Krogans reach maturity age 5 years after their egg is laid. I want you to think about that for a second. A Krogan female lays an egg. 5 years later, you have potentially around 500 fucking females that can all lay 1,000 more eggs. And this is the case for every new batch of eggs you lay 5 years after you lay them. If the Krogans really wanted to increase their numbers and they were just laying eggs like mad and just fucking like mad, do you have any idea how large their population would get? Could you even fathom a number? You don't have to, because I already did the math because I was curious. If you take a single Krogan female and she lays 1,000 eggs 1 year, and we assume that half of those laid eggs are females, that means in 5 years, you can have 500 females each laying 1,000 more eggs. That's 500,000 more eggs, 250,000 females possibly. Those 250,000 females lay 1,000 more eggs, with the estimation that half of which will also be female. Now, this is just following one generation. This isn't including the female doing this every single year. This is just that first batch and what could possibly happen with that first batch. If we just assume that the female's laying 1,000 eggs every single year, and all of her kids are laying 1,000 eggs every single year, and their kids are laying 1,000 eggs every single year, after every 5 years with them being viable to be able to do so, when starting with one female Krogan, after 10 years, you will have 1.9 nontillion Krogan. Do you have any idea how big of a number that is? If you're not sure, let me enlighten you. That's a 1, a comma, a 9, and then 26 zeros. 26! That's fucking massive! In 10 years, coming from one Krogan. If you're starting off with billions of Krogan, that number is unfathomably bigger, which is the case. We know there are at least billions, since they completely cover multiple planets. They're an interplanetary species. We know for a fact that they control at least 4 planets, likely more. I understand that in Warframe, the Grineer's whole strength is the sheer numbers, like their cloning facilities, but you have to understand, the Grineer aren't even really a solar system type threat when it comes to their numbers. Their numbers are still at an absolute maximum, the hundreds of billions to possibly lower trillions. Those numbers are little bitch baby numbers compared to the Krogan. The Krogan are a galactic threat. They were a warlike race that were spreading at such a rate that they would have driven all of the other races to extinction, which is one of many reasons why I often say that Mass Effect 1 is the only good Mass Effect game as far as its writing is concerned. I know a lot of people like the writing of Mass Effect 2, and some people even like the writing of Mass Effect 3, but the entire idea of Mass Effect 1 is that the genophage was done out of necessity because they literally would have wiped all life from the planet. It was a horrible thing we had to do to one race, but like, we couldn't help it. They were being assholes and they were spreading at rates that we couldn't fucking stop. Mass Effect 2 starts to lean into the idea that the genophage was this horrible thing, with Mord and Solus coming up and being like, oh man, you know, I'm kind of feeling guilty about this because they're experimenting on people to try and get rid of the genophage, and this makes me feel bad. And I'm like, bro, did you completely forget why the genophage was made? Who gives a shit if they're experimenting on some people trying to cure the genophage? They were literally a threat to the whole galaxy. By Mass Effect 3, the game makes a hard fucking stance saying the genophage was wrong, and if you go up against the genophage, not only does it hurt you in the final war, but it's just painted throughout the story as the evil or bad decision. This is so dumb, because the whole problem with the Krogan's breeding thing, you have now brought that back into the galaxy. You haven't solved your fucking problem by curing the genophage. If we hop another 10 years in the future after the end of Mass Effect 3, the fucking Krogan are gonna be a massive galactic threat again. Did the series just fucking forget about this? Terrible writing. Fucking dog shit garbage writing. Having said that, the Grineer can't do anything to stop the Krogan. It doesn't matter if they're stronger. It doesn't matter if they have better weapons. They cannot deal with Krogan numbers. Simple as that. And the Krogans are a race of beings who are shown to be pretty good at salvaging the weapons of their opponents. So even if the technology of the Grineer are better, it's only a matter of time before the Krogan kind of catches up and starts using it as well. So yeah, this just becomes a complete wash. It doesn't matter how well fortified their planets or moons or fortresses are. If the Krogan can just keep throwing dudes at them forever, and the Grineer can't wipe them out faster than they can repopulate, which they can't, it's only a matter of time before the Krogan overcome the Grineer through just sheer numbers. And it's not like the strength of an individual Grineer soldier or their weapons are so impressive that they completely blow the Krogan out of the water. I mean, the Krogan did completely nearly destroy all of Tuchanka, and Tuchanka is a very large planet compared to something like Earth. The Krogan have been stockpiling nukes since the Krogan Rebellion, which was over 1,000 years ago. They're going to have a damn near limitless fucking number of nukes to chuck at the Grineer. Honestly, at this point, I don't even have to go into their superior space travel or the fact that they are an extremely adaptive race. And even though the genophage was specifically made to affect literally every single cell in a Krogan's body, they still had to keep coming and upgrading it and making it more effective because Krogan biology kept adapting to it. And it's not just implied, but straight up stated that if the Solarians didn't keep upgrading the genophage, they would have just adapted to it, and it would have essentially been like they never made it in the first place. Yeah, no, this is done. The Grineer are fucked. There's literally nothing they can do. Not against numbers this crazy and an alien race this hard to kill. Last up, but certainly not least, we have the War World from DC This is stupid. This is a stupid one. I'm sorry. I wanted to do something new, and I was like, oh, War World, that would be really awesome. I haven't done War World before, I don't think. Let's do the fucking War World. And yeah, I mean, it's dumb. That's dumb, right? That's really dumb. Everything I've said about the Grineer, about them being able to create impenetrable fortresses, take that and then multiply it by fucking trillion, quadrillion, octillion, 1.9 nontillion. The War World is way better at it. When Mongol shows up at the War World, it is a Justice League level threat. Superman by himself cannot take on the War World. He's not capable of destroying it. Superman once directly stated that Lex Luthor and Brainiac's most powerful weapons they've ever made against him are complete jokes in the face of the War World. He compared them by saying their strongest weapons were like man's first club, and the War World was like an atomic bomb. There isn't even a comparison to be made. And when you see the crazy weapons that Lex and Brainiac have used against Superman, that really starts to put everything into focus just how fucking dangerous the War World really is. In Superman's entire history, he's never been able to destroy the War World with his own power. He's beaten it, like he's been able to banish it into the Phantom Zone, and it has been destroyed by other means. Like at one point it was destroyed by a fuck ton of antimatter that was created by the Anti-Monitor, but Superman himself has never been shown being able to just, fly through the bitch. The War World was specifically designed in the DC universe to be the weapon that is the best at conquering worlds than any other weapon in the DC universe. If you know the DC universe, that's pretty fucking wild. I don't even think Mongol needs the War World. He could literally turn the War World off and just wait inside for an army of Kuvaliches to be sent into the fucking ship, and he could ragdoll all of them. He really wouldn't even be struggling all that much. Mongol by himself is ridiculously overpowered. Just to give you an idea of how strong he is, he once fought a small army of Yellow Lanterns all at the same time, including Sinestro and Black Adam, who had a Yellow Lantern ring. And while I won't say he won because the fight didn't really have an ending, he was winning. He was very clearly winning. Mongol himself is a close to Superman level threat, and the War World itself is considerably more dangerous than Superman. I'm sorry, I don't know why I did this. I don't know. I thought it was cool. I thought it'd be cool, like what would Grineer, because if they came up and then they would have to fight against the war. It sounds like it would be awesome. But then you're like, their biggest missiles destroying countries, you wouldn't even notice it blowing up on the fucking war world. It's like the size of a large moon. I think it's larger than our moon. It's not planet size or anything, but it's pretty fucking big. There are weapons on the war world that can blow up planets and even solar systems. Like, this is stupid. The war world can solo the entire Warframe universe, and I'm thinking to put this fucking thing against just the Grineer. Like, oh god, I fucked up this video. This video is done. It's bad. It's bad. It's a bad ending to this video. But hey, I could have ended it by cucking guts. That was always an option. But that's going to be all from me. Hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, share, and join the membership. Remember, join the membership. You get exclusive access to unique videos that no one else can get. And don't forget to check down below the pinned comment where there will be a link to not only the Discord, but my second channel. My second channel is the place where I put all types of videos that are not survival challenges. If you want to hear more of my awesome, beautiful, amazing, angelic voice, go on over there and check that shit out. And always remember, y'all stay safe out there, you hear?